Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Acting strictly on the policy of zero tolerance, the Yogi Adityanath government on Wednesday warned over 400 corrupt officials of severe punishment and decided to give early retirement to around 200 employees. According to government officials, the state government has asked 200 officials to take voluntary retirement as they were found guilty in corruption cases. At the same time, more than 400 corrupt officials and employees have been warned of severe punishments. On June 20th, Adityanath had reviewed the work of the Secretariat Administration Department at Lok Bhawan and said that there was no place for corrupt officers and staff in the government. He had said that corrupt officers could be shown the door by giving them compulsory retirement. The Chief Minister had directed the officials to prepare a list of corrupt officers and advised firm action against them. Recently, the Union government had forcibly retired 15 senior IT officials on similar grounds. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze what administrative reforms need to be undertaken. Joining me on the program today are B.P. Singh, former governor, B.K. Chaturvedi, former cabinet secretary, and Kiran Puri, joint secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Kiran Puri, I'd like to begin the program with you. First, let's try and put it in perspective and try and understand what is the government's plan as far as administrative reforms in the short term for the first 100 days are concerned.
In the first 100 days, there are 3 or 4 agendas which we have finalized. And P.K. Mishra has also said, additional private secretary to PMO office, he said that now there will be a greater speed to the bureaucratic and administrative reforms. And in this, first of all, we are organizing national workshop every year. And this year we were not able to do it, we gave awards only. And now in the month of August, we are going to organize a national conference workshop on e-governance, and for which the platform is to provide to improve the standard of e-services rendered to the common man, means end-to-end service delivery. Then second reform is reform of central public grievances redressal mechanism. Earlier it was a top-to-down approach, and now from now onwards we have mapped the software in this way that now the complainant can go to the field level also, the lowest rung of the employee who is operational level. So in this way it will be very easier for the complainant to get his grievance redressed. Then third is the National E-Service Delivery Assessment, in which we have found a group, and KPMG was called for this, and then we are analyzing the services delivery in all the states UTs and in major 8 departments, and major 8 departments which we have chosen is because that these are in consonance with the UN DESA, which is conducting a biennial survey on that. So according to that, complying that, we are taking those 8 departments, and then we are going to publish a report in this within next 100 days, and every year also we are going to monitor it.
So the focus is going to be on, online kind of services and e-services basically, to try and bring about some kind of transparency and ease as far as administrative reforms are concerned. Okay. Mr. B.K. Chaturvedi, let me bring you into the picture and point your attention to the steps that were taken both by the Union government as well as the Uttar Pradesh government in forcibly asking certain officials to retire because they had some allegations of taint against them. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that this is a good idea that officers who are corrupt must be retired. But we must look at the existing laws and rules under which it can be done. To my understanding, what the government of India did was under the rules under which they can assess the performance of people after the age of 50 years, and in case it is found wanting, they can be retired. Asking people to retire voluntarily, I am afraid, is not one of the ways, though one would very much like. It is a sort of a punishment. So government of Uttar Pradesh will have to look at what are the rules under which they are going to move ahead. But that they should be retired, there is no doubt about it. That if they are corrupt people, action should be taken against them. There is no two views about it, and strong action should be taken against them. I think that is very, very correct and is the right approach.
Okay.
On the other issue, I think Kiran mentioned, I would just like to briefly mention about the e-services and others. I think this is, to me, the key factor. The systemic reforms, in case they move forward, they would go a long, long way. And they have taken 8 steps. I don't know which departments they have taken. I'm sure they must have taken key departments. I think that is where across the country we must move forward, because this is what pinches the common man most, delivery of services. So in case we can move forward in this e-services thing and use IT for that, I think that will go a long way. There are other systemic reforms as well which will need to be undertaken, but I think this is a very good beginning.
Okay, all right. Kiran Puri, do you want to respond to what Mr. Chaturvedi
I can
just said?
respond that we have taken those 8 departments are finance, health, social welfare, education, labor, employment, environment, those which are delivering public service directly in concern with the citizens, and UNDESA is also taking these 8 departments in their biennial survey.
Sure.
So we have taken that.
Okay, all right. Mr. Singh, I'd like to bring you into the picture now. Going to go back to the question that I asked Mr. Chaturvedi. There is no doubt that action should be taken when someone is corrupt, but is forcible retirement the option really, or the solution to this problem, or is there something else? Could there be legal hurdles somewhere down the line for some action like this?
I must tell you that it requires a kind of environment creation in which the corrupt get scared that they are not doing their job in a manner they are expected to do. And I am glad that they are being singled out. We have a great advantage that we have a resolute leadership at the center and several chief ministers of all political parties. Some of them are persons of very, very high integrity. So there is an atmosphere for that, and I hope that it will not be guided, the easing out will not be guided by other political considerations. It has to be strictly on the basis of legal hurdles can be sorted out. Legal hurdles can be sorted out, but they have to be shown the door. The corrupt will have to be shown the door, and as effectively as possible. But I am more concerned about the broader picture. 2 things that have happened which are unique during the last 7-8 years. One was that Manrega that gave every person a life of dignity, at least he has some work if he wanted to do manual work. So he had food and all that. The second, which is very important, is the direct benefit transfer to the people, and with which e-governance point raised by Kiran is also involved. Are the benefits going to the needy? Now, I am a great admirer of PM's Man Ki Baat, and he has opened up so many areas during the last 5 years, and more will come. Now, if you look at that, the most crucial area is the criminal justice system. Millions of cases are pending. More than 3 crores of cases are pending. Now, there you find that the government is coming up with a plan for All India Judicial Service. And this is, in my view, I have been trying up with this idea even as Union Home Secretary, and there has to be some kind of agreement on that. The second thing which is very important, our jails are in a bad shape. Now, jails will have to be transformed, and my idea was that all jails which were there on 26 January 1950, which were district jails, must be made big to meet the requirements of the day. And since we have 3 types of hills, plains and desert areas, a general plan can be made depending upon the area available, and construction formulas could be done so that it could be done quickly, not what we are seeing in cases of hospitals in Bihar or Eastern Uttar Pradesh. The third I thought was about the courts. Now the system that their e-governance is very necessary. You know, in lower courts, adjournments are done freely. When I was in the World Bank, I had insisted upon this, and only Sri Lanka accepted. The district judge, in respect of civil cases and criminal cases, and the chief judicial magistrate in case of criminal cases, every evening they will know has any adjournment been granted, because he has the list of cases going to be heard today. So it should be possible with these things to change, create an atmosphere that we are a country where the contracts are enforced. And that is the biggest factor which you said about the legal hurdles will disappear, because ease of doing business requires that the contracts have to be enforced.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will come to some other points, and the most important point that I wanted to say here before I give you the option to go to others. The Prime Minister in good old days used to go to state capitals and call a meeting of Chief Minister and Ministers. And that gave him an idea of the caliber of his colleagues in the political system, and also whether the minister concerned has the ability to think out of box. Because we need such people today. And I am glad such an approach has been adopted in composition of the present Council of Ministers in Delhi. The other thing is, laws are there, but why DMs and SPs are not enforcing them? From mob lynching to beating of officials to misbehavior with the Chief Secretary. Examples galore. Why it is not happening? And all these issues are very important and linked to creation of the ambience of a corruption-free administrative system in the country.
Absolutely. Let me take the points you're making forward. Mr. Chaturvedi, what are the biggest challenges really as far as the administration is concerned?
You see, I would say that the biggest challenge today for the administration is in the states. Of the total money spent in the country, around 60 to 70% is spent in the states. Now, the focus of governance, the focus of reforms in the states, unfortunately, has not been as concentrated. It is there we need to work forward and change the bureaucracy, put in reforms right from the ground level up to the level of the senior most civil servants. So we need to look at the civil service in the states and how we can reform them in the states. B, the systemic reforms, both at the center and the states, need to be looked at. And this process by which we have Administrative Reforms Commission reports, which gives hundreds of recommendations, and we value them as to how many of percentage they have implemented, doesn't do any good. We need to have reform groups both at the center with the Prime Minister and in the states with the Chief Minister. The reform groups must continue and look at all the systemic changes which need to be made so that the delivery of public services is good, the programs are implemented more effectively, and the money which is there reaches the man for which it is required to be given. and the programs deliver the results which are there. So that is the second most important thing, the systemic change and the methods by which it can be done. Third, the probity. The probity in the system is required to be improved further. We have made some changes in that. I think this is one we need to do more. We saw methods being used by the UP government, but I think we need to do more on this both at the ground level and at the senior level. In case we can have further emphasis on this aspect all along, I think it will go down the line. It will give very good effect, because people are very worried because particularly the corruption hits the poorest the most. So
Sure.
I think this is the third most important thing.
Okay.
The fourth point, which is police. Unfortunately, police reforms have been completely neglected over the years. There have been umpteen number of committees, commissions, starting from the Saxena committee in the 1970s till the Malimat committee way back in the 1990s and 2000, but things have not moved forward. Even the Supreme Court's orders, they have not really moved, have not really helped in the states, because the states do not want to give the power over the police. I think it is this, again, this needs to be seen, because the common man's life is determined quite a lot by the way police works in the system. I think
Sure.
this is one way. So both on the police reforms, on the quality of it and the quantity of it, the number of policemen we have is abysmally poor. So on both sides, I think we need to look at on this issue. Again, I think this is one reform we need to look at.
Okay,
These are
absolutely.
few areas. There are other areas, but questions of water, questions of environment, and those are very key questions today. One could discuss. I don't want to expand the area of debate. Otherwise, those are very key questions for governance, for an ordinary man, and in fact for the society as such.
Right,
We
absolutely.
are looking at a major disaster way back in the next 20 years unless we look at some of these issues very carefully.
Absolutely. Very pertinent points there raised by you. I'm taking those points forward as well. But before that, Kiran Puri, what is being done really to strengthen the officials and the administration as a whole?
We are refurbishing the personal administration, and Central Secretariat Manual of Office Procedure has also been updated after a long period. Earlier there was one manual office procedure, and then in between it e-office procedure came. Now we have integrated, and this is going to be published in the month of August or end of July. And in this, which we have 16 chapters have been read thoroughly. I was the chairperson in that committee, and after that also editing and re-editing have been done. There are 16 chapters, and out of that I can mention the 4 chapters which were very important was regarding digitization processes, knowledge management, then this record management practices. These important chapters we have added so that people can come to know about these aspects, and e-office has been integrated into that manual of office procedure, and wherever we have mentioned that in e-office what we have to do, and in this way it will provide digitization end-to-end services. And after that, now we have introduced in this long-term plan that e-office was it was an mission mode project, central mission mode project, and now we have made it an integrated mission mode project. We are going to have it in the attached and subordinate offices and on all the states and UTs.
Okay.
Earlier there was problem because states were not doing it, because being a federal structure they were thinking that it's only an advisory, but now we are planning a scheme, and we will get the budget approved so that we can centrally sponsored scheme or 50 to 50 sharing basis. Then it will become mandatory for them to implement it.
Okay, all right. Mr. Singh, so broadening the scope of the discussion, now let's try and analyze and try and understand, does the bureaucracy come in the way of productive governance at some level?
Yes, it does. But the questions are many. If you look at the key areas which are going to transform the Indian economy to say 5 trillion economy, or we become a major voice in terms of trade, in terms of defense capabilities and cultural propensities as a global power, we have to look at these 5-6 areas which have been mentioned, like environment, education, health, and also criminal judicial system, which I mentioned to you. What we find is, crucial element is, are we having the best Indians at critical levels in these areas? Now, what is required is, whether the Indians are here or whether the Indians are serving outside, we should have an inventory of the best minds to have that. This is what China did. They brought the Chinese Americans, kept them back by force, but they, out of sheer love for their country, worked and transformed the economy. Now here we get blogged or pulled into different directions by other considerations. Say for example, I give you in the case of science, outer space, atomic energy, we have a long tradition of having people from outside the field for the proven capacity, and the Prime Minister used to approve that, and even now he does. But that force has gone down. What is required is, say, education. You need a list of 5,000 people, Indians of proven merit, and you identify, say, 1,000 institutions where, because there is a new industrial revolution taking place in the world which is called Fourth Industrial Revolution, and this is fusion of digital technology and all that with e-governance systems. So we have to progress. People call it by popular name of artificial intelligence. Now all this requires institutions have to be identified, leadership has to be identified and found out. This is something which is very important. Probity, of course, is important. I give you 2 examples. One that worries me, from 1952 to up to 1975 or 77, this country was united by community development blocks, which Pandit Nehru and his colleagues have started, and it continued. Now these were anchals, Anchalik Panchayats and all that. Nobody talks. Lands have disappeared or buildings have fallen. Now this could have become the e-governance system centers because it was mapped accordingly. You can transform. Similarly, institutions. Now if technology had changed, whether it is a DRDO lab or whether it is the university lab, you find out. So this is possible only when we think big.
Right.
Now there was a system in the World Bank which I liked, and I had recommended this to the government of India at that time. There, if you have a scientific project, this is important, and so you identify who will implement that and give him the power to select 2 or 3 key officials from his department to help him. This gentleman has a sum, say for 100 crores he is making that project. It has physical and also intellectual inputs. He will make a proposal to his senior and also to his senior. And if within a stipulated period of 3 weeks, his senior does not object, it will be considered as approved. Or if he objects, then he has to write to his senior and to one senior above. And if they say this is nonsense, your comments, it is again approved. There has to be some system where somebody is responsible, and that is how the ease of doing business can be secured.
Absolutely.
So some of these ideas have to be taken, adopted from different places, but key sectors are being identified: health, education, environment, water, agriculture have been identified. So in these areas, we have to move first for the best minds.
Absolutely.
And then also for a plan of action.
Sure. So more empowerment and more accountability is what you're talking about. Quick closing comments from all my guests, starting first with you, Mr. Chaturvedi, with the best way forward.
Well, the best way forward is, first of all, for the governance reforms to be taken up at the ground level, at the state level, identifying that probity and systemic changes are the key factors which are important, identifying that we must meet the basic requirements of health, education, criminal justice system, as the colleague was saying, and of course the police requirement, meeting these and bringing in e-governance as much as we can at the ground level. In case we can do that, then I think we will be moving forward to bring a better quality of life for the people.
Okay, all right. Kiran Puri, we've spoken about the short-term goals really as far as administrative reforms are concerned. We've spoken about the challenges. We've spoken about what the government is doing presently as well. What are the long-term goals?
Long-term goals, again, promoting e-governance, as pointed out by our eminent speakers also. They are stressing upon e-governance. We are thinking to promote e-governance, and e-office we are doing in all the attached and subordinate offices. And this is long-term goal only because it cannot be done exactly in 100 days. And states also we are going to implement it. And we want to replicate the e-governance projects also, because some of them are scattered, they got the awards, and after that if we will replicate it to other states, then it will be really good, because others are also, because the draft structure is there and only on that they have to implement it. Then we are broad basing the PM awards also. Earlier it was centralized only on district collector initiatives. Now we are thinking that innovations from other departments, from state governments, from all the service sectors, all across the service sectors, innovation can come from them.
Sure.
So that it can be replicated also by other department also. So this will be broad based, e-governance will be broad based, and then we are thinking to have an approach, broad approach from 22 to 23 for 1 year, which starts from, we say, that 75th year, and then for that we have 2 approaches in which there are 15 themes which we have taken from the administrative reform commissions. These are refurbishing personal administration. On that there will be workshops will be convened in 1 year. And there are 2 approaches that is to be seen which approach will be adopted. One will be that DRPG will be the nodal authority, and in the second approach it will be given to the concerned departments.
Sure.
So though all the 15 themes which were in administrative reform commissions, all those will be taken and all the stakeholders will be involved. Second, one more important thing is there.
I've got very limited time, so I'd like Mr. BP Singh to close the show for us with a quick closing concluding remark.
I must tell you that the concept of direct benefit transfer that this government has initiated, along with quality in delivery of services, this has to be carried forward to the grassroots level.
Right.
Second, which is important, that an atmosphere of startups involving our young graduates, bright minds, have to be expanded further. We have some people working in that field, so that new ideas come, new methods of solving problems come.
Absolutely.
And best brains have to
best brains and new ideas is what Mr. BP Singh is suggesting. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. What's coming out of this discussion is e-governance is the way forward and the best answer really to the problems of administrative issues. With that, it's a wrap. See you again next time.